Introducing a lineup of international award-winning and talented indie authors, only on the Writer's Corner live show. This week on the Writer's Corner live show, we're thrilled to have Dr. David Schein join us. He's an accomplished author, professor, attorney, and a very versatile individual known for his bipartisan approach to political management. With best-selling books like Bad Deal for America and The Decline of America, Dr. Schein seamlessly blends academia with practical insights. His diverse interests include cooking, healthy food, staying fit, and enjoying Argentine Tango. Currently, he tells us he's working on his upcoming book, A Cheap Education. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writer's Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones, use refusals to spark growth, and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works and join us as we celebrate literary greatness, only on the Writer's Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writer's Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you're just joining us, then welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. If you're not yet following us on social media, please do, and that's where you'll get notified next time we go live. Our amazing guest today is Dr. David Schein, so don't go away, stay tuned. Our live stream is brought to you compliments of BeLive Media, Creative Edge, and StreamYard. And we do this with immense gratitude to BSN, your all-in-one entertainment revolution, for making it possible for our show to be on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google TV, and soon also Apple TV. So do join BSN for a world of boundless creativity. But now, before we welcome our amazing guest to join us in the studio, first, let me say a warm hello to my friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's also a passionate author and certified special needs and disabilities advocate, and she is committed to amplifying underrepresented voices. Mary's also a speaker, educator, ghostwriter, and songwriter. Mary, how are you today?
I am wonderful, and I'm very excited about our guest today. And we always have the most amazing guest on our show. We are just really, we're really lucky to have.
Yes, it absolutely has. And I'm very, very delighted to have Dr. Schein as our guest today. So if you don't know Dr. David Schein, he is an accomplished author, a professor, an attorney, and an all-round very versatile individual. He is renowned for his bipartisan approach to political management, and this is very evident in his best-selling books, Bad Deal for America, and also The Decline of America, 100 Years of Leadership Failures. And he has a background from an Ivy League institution, brings a wealth of expertise in his roles, and seamlessly blends academia with practical insights. Dr. Schein's diverse interests also include cooking healthy food, staying fit, and indulging in his passion for Argentine Tango. And he tells us that currently he's working on his upcoming book, A Cheap Education. Stay tuned. He's going to be joining us on the show.
Dr. Schein, how are you? Welcome to
Hi.
Writer's Corner.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been great. I love watching your opening videos and things. You guys have, it's wonderful to see such great production.
Well, thank you very much. There's a lot of work that goes into all that. We're really excited to have you here. And Brigetti, Dr. Schein, I think he's one of our kind of people, right? All this multiple hats wearing.
Absolutely. We are very, very delighted that you could join us today. And I think we're going to dive right in because I have so many questions to ask you, and I don't think 30 minutes is going to cut it. We'll have to have you back. So your bio highlights your commitment to making your classes fun and engaging for your students. How does this approach translate into your writing, particularly, Bad Deal for America and the Decline of America, which tackle very complex political issues?
Well, I think it's something that starts pretty early. I have been a decent writer or, an academic writer since, grammar school. And I want people to understand what I'm saying. And occasionally I'll read the works of, very erudite people, very educated people. And there's so many Latin words incorporated into their stuff that you need a thesaurus or a dictionary next to you to understand the concepts. And so for me, I've always been somebody who's spoken very plainly, and I like to speak. Unfortunately, I have to kind of reel myself in a little bit. But I wanted, one of the things I tell my students is I want them to use what we cover in class, that it doesn't do us any good as professors to cover material at a level where the students don't use it. I'd rather cover fewer topics, but really hammer in the basics and encourage students to think for themselves and to expand their own knowledge and to pursue that. And a number of my students have gone on to get PhDs and law degrees after taking my classes, and so I'm very excited about that.
That's wonderful. And we just talked about this, about all your roles, and you're described as being a generally useful person. And you're and you're balancing roles as an author, professor, attorney, and more. How did these diverse experiences inform your perspective on political management as explored in your bipartisan approach to writing?
Well, I've always been interested in what's happening in our society, and actually I'm interested in world events and not just local things, but I was involved with the community when I was in Philadelphia in college. Not a lot of students just stay on the campus and go in there and punch their ticket and leave. And I moved to Philadelphia for college, and I knew the Democratic precinct chair lived near me when I lived out in the neighborhood. I moved out into the neighborhood rather than staying right on the campus, and became very integrated into the community in Philadelphia. And I've continued to do that. I've been active with different chambers of commerce and different activities that are going on. And so it's something that's kind of developed very naturally with me. I have been a political candidate in the early 1990s. My children were young then, and actually went door to door with me and did campaigning the old-fashioned way. And then I had an opportunity in the early 2000s to be what I call the fly on the wall. I actually had a close relationship with a staffer in Congress in Washington, and for over a year had an opportunity to attend events. Actually, some of the events were inside the Congressional Office Building, which is a secure building. You can't get in there unless you have a reason and things like that. And so I had an opportunity to see things close up, and that did help me to get a real grounding of things. And I've been self-employed. I'm currently a professor, but I also have my own business. And I have been very concerned about the national debt. I think it is very unfair to our children and our children's children, and I'm happy to say I have grandchildren now, and I do not want them to inherit the debt that our grandparents and our parents and have in our generation especially have foisted on them. And so I pay all my bills. I watch my own credit rating. I actually talk to my students about how to maintain their FICO score, their credit rating. And so the variety of experiences that I had, and one of the things that I volunteer, and I hope people don't feel this is gratuitous, but a lot of times people say, well, you don't understand where we're coming from because you look at all your education and you went to an Ivy League college and all that stuff. And I do volunteer, and this is part of what's in the book in process, A Cheap Education, is I'm the oldest of 7 children. And I grew up under some very, very tight financial circumstances. I certainly never went without food, but we ate very plain food and economical food. And I did not take any money from my parents to go to college. And I worked hard in high school and earned a scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania. In retrospect, and this comes out in the book, I probably should have picked a different university. I did not feel a part of the university, but I got a wonderful education in the streets of Philadelphia, and by having my own business in college and getting out there and meeting people like Ed Hannigan, who was the local Democratic precinct chair, even though I'm a lifelong conservative, but I do look at both sides of the picture to see how things fit together. And I do feel that we've become too polarized today, and I know you've heard a lot about that.
Yes, and you touch on some really important points there about finances and things just being better with our money. And also it is scary, what our children, I don't have grandchildren yet, I have children, and just today's it's really tough and scary. So you really do touch on some really important points there.
Wow, yeah, that is absolutely true. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say that when you figure that we're going to add $1 trillion to the debt every 3 to 4 months in the United States, that the proposed federal budget for next year, I don't know if you can call it a budget, is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And I'm not seeing anybody running around saying, you know what, when industry has, to compare it to industry, I know you've seen that some of the big tech companies have had massive layoffs, 10,000, 12,000 employees. And we unfortunately need to do that at the federal government and frankly at all levels of government. And people keep talking right now about the levels of employment, that we have a very high employment structure. But what's hidden in those numbers is that a lot of those people are in the public sector. So we've rapidly expanded the public sector, and that's crazy. That's increasing our demand to borrow money at the public level. And I'm hopeful that a little bit of, I call myself a little bit of Crusader Rabbit, the little cartoon character from the 1950s, which was before my time. I just want to volunteer that. I'm not a youngster, but Crusader Rabbit, I had to look him up because I used the term Crusader Rabbit and found out there really was a cartoon character called Crusader Rabbit. Well, one of the first cartoon characters on when television was invented. It was one of the first cartoons. But so I view what I do a little bit of a personal crusade, trying to be persuasive in a more balanced way. That a lot of what we do tends to be, extreme partisanship, and to get people to see the importance of balancing the budget, and you can't balance the budget unless the different political forces agree. Part of what drove doing the book Bad Deal for America is driving around, and I just thought about a deck of cards and presenting both, because I'm a real news junkie. I listen to the news all the time, and I would hear these statements by different politicians, and it would be, oh my goodness, how divorced is this person from our families and from our children and all that. And I did observe when I was in D.C., Washington, D.C., that it's a very different existence. It doesn't look anything like what the rest of us deal with. And one of the reasons that I wrote the book was to advocate for term limits, because I think the only way that we regular people are going to get our voices heard about concern about the debt, concern about getting the government out of our lives, frankly, in a lot of ways, is to have term limits. And unfortunately, I don't think the folks in Washington are going to do that on their own.
Wow, that's very, very insightful. So your previous book, The Decline of America, presented a very sobering analysis of past failures in leadership. How does your optimistic outlook shape the narrative in Bad Deal for America, and perhaps even influence your proposed solutions for a better future?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting about it is that we have got a situation where our political system operates almost independent of the success of America. So one of my points is that America won 2 world wars. We won the space race. We have developed incredible technologies. We've made incredible advances in healthcare and medical research. I'm not far from the MD Anderson Cancer Center, which is actually curing a number of cancers that were considered incurable in even 10 or 12 years ago. And so we have done some amazing things, and yet we've got a series of D- grades in the presidency that goes back over 20 years. And just quickly to volunteer that my book is Wilson through Obama, because he was just leaving the presidency when Decline of America was released. And we have not had stunning presidents, and we have still survived, but I think we may be running to the end of that, because the entire political system, which, in other words, Decline of America addresses the American presidency's issues, and then Bad Deal for America addresses the members of Congress. And frankly, these people are not getting the job done for us. And so among my other projections is I do think that the 2 current dominant political parties in the United States may both be different, say 20 years from now. I actually think that both the Democrat and Republican parties have so badly failed the American people that both of them may be replaced by new political parties. And I know you're probably familiar with the thing called No Labels Party. And I want to quickly volunteer as someone who's a very careful observer, is that the No Labels Party is really the Democrat Party light. It's not. As much as it's promoted as being a different voice, it's not the different voice that I think the American people need. I think it's too close to one of the 2 existing political parties. But I'm hopeful that with books like mine, which both have been well received, and that with a growing concern of the national debt, which is reaching beyond historic proportions, that we're going to probably, I think something's got to give in here, and I'm planning a new book to replace Decline of America, which would add the chapters on Biden and Trump. And I'm deliberately not updating that book until after the November election. Let's take it one step at a time, and that gives me a little bit of a window to work on a cheap education, which talks about the education system. And of course, it's interesting because it involves my time at the University of Pennsylvania. We heard about that this morning because there was the Penn Biden Institute, and there were classified documents in unsecured locations, apparently somewhere on the Penn campus. And the president of Penn very publicly resigned a couple months ago after congressional testimony. So it's an interesting time in the world to be writing a book about your experiences at Penn.
Yes, it is. It's a very interesting time right now, period, all over the world, and I know definitely in the U.S. As someone deeply involved in academia, law, and consulting, how do you bridge the gap between theory and practice in your writing, ensuring that your insights resonate with a broad audience? And I know that's really tricky.
Well, I think sometimes my academic writing gets hammered a little bit because I am heavily published in order to be a full professor. I'm an endowed chair. I had to have books and many academic articles. My articles tend to run about 20 to 30 pages, which is, for general circulation, a very long article, but in academia, a lot of the articles are 60 and 80 pages long, and some of the journals that have rejected some of my academic articles, don't feel that I'm in depth enough and all that. But I think that if we want academia to have more relevancy, that we probably need to write shorter articles and get to the point. So my personal focus is a very pragmatic one. It's let me get to the point. Let me tell you why you care about this, and we'll work from there. And I do have one article that's very close to submission that criticizes the court approval of these huge what people call mega mergers, and the United States, to switch to the economy a little bit, but it's become somewhat political, is the United States and the world, not just the United States, but the world, has experienced an incredible consolidation of businesses. We mentioned at the opening of the show our social media, and that social media is controlled by basically three large, huge corporations control much of social media within the United States and most likely other parts of Europe and so forth. And it's a real concern. But right now, Microsoft, which is a mega corporation, is attempting to buy Activision. That is a $68 billion merger or acquisition. And the courts have so far not said, guys, Activision is quite able to function on its own. And Microsoft, if you want to do something like that, you can start your own business. So my law journal article for that, which again has not yet been published, argues strongly that our courts and our federal government need to be more responsive to the overall situation.
That is quite insightful and interesting. We're just going to switch to your latest endeavor very quickly because we're running out of time now. Yes. We'd love to talk more. We definitely need an hour for the show. So just give us a quick roundup of what we can look forward to in a cheap education.
Well, the cheap education is loosely based on my experience while I was at Penn. I became involved in the Philadelphia arts and entertainment community and ended up doing a weekly 1-hour radio program on public radio about the arts in Philadelphia. And during that time, I got to interview many of the popular actors, singers, and performers, including the Supremes, the Temptations, Carol Channing, the famed Broadway actress, Helen Hayes, famous actress. And so I got a chance to meet an awful lot of neat people and very famous people during that time. And it also shows that if you put your mind to it and you focus on what you do in life, that you can accomplish a great deal. And I don't know that anybody who knew my, modest, childhood would have expected somebody to have 3 graduate degrees and to have had, business in college. And, I've had various businesses since then. So it's been a very interesting trip, and like I said, I try to share that with my students. But Cheap Education tracks that 4-year period while I was in Philadelphia, involved in the community there.
That's amazing. It's really it's very important to parents. I know the education system has gotten more and more and more expensive. And I know that because that's where I am in my life with 2 of my children. So, what advice do you have for parents?
Well, one of the things very immediately is that many times students rely too much on the college's financial aid office. There are a huge number of scholarships that are independent of universities, that you can take the money anywhere. Also encourage students to really do well, because the top academic scholarships are the ones that are awarded to the very best students. And also to be practical, we had a period in academia where 68% of undergraduates were communications majors, and then they had to go actually find jobs, and they ended up at fast food, and people were like, well, college isn't worth it. Well, you have to focus on what you're doing. A great undergraduate degree is psychology. You need to understand, if you're a psychology undergraduate major, that you're going to have a tough time getting a job with a bare BA. On the other hand, if you're a master's of social work with a psych undergrad, things like that, there are great opportunities. Many people with psych undergrad degrees get a master's in human resources or an MBA and go into human resources, which is a great field. And then, of course, we're all dealing with a lot of stress, and there's a lot of demand for clinical psychologists. And of course, we've had 2 very famous TV shows, the Bob Newhart show and Kelsey Grammer's show, that featured psychiatrists and psychologists who help people and stuff like that. So there's a lot of opportunity, but I think people need to be focused. And if you're not ready, don't feel pressured to go right to college. Both of my sons took some time off and then went to community college, which is another cost saver. Do community college for 2 years and then do your last 2 years at your 4-year college. So there's a variety of ways to do it. I was very fortunate when I went back to school at age 50 to get my PhD. I was qualified to get a teaching assistantship. So I actually taught and did research while I was working on my doctorate, and the school provided some benefits. There's lots of things to do.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, very helpful. And I know we're out of time. We're so grateful you're here. We'll have to have...
Thank you. It's been great, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest, and we'd love to have you back.
You bet. Happy to do it.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching the Writers' Corner live show, brought to you by BSN, your all-in-one entertainment revolution. Until next time, goodbye for now. Thank you for joining us on the Writers' Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writers' Corner live show.